everybody out there in Bourbon Real Talk land. Randy Sullivan with a very special episode because this is episode 100. I'm even a little surprised I made it this long. Have to give a huge shout out to all of y'all. Thank you so much. And for this episode, I have the specialist of guests. I have my lovely wife, Lindsay Sullivan. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, so Lindsay is shy, and I've asked her many times to be on the show, but she has declined. But I had the 100th episode pressure that I could put her under to get her here. So what we are going to do is I am going to have my wife taste various whiskeys blind, because she's a little bit of a whiskey noob. She drinks a little bit of whiskey, but not like a lot of you guys. And so we're going to give it to her blind, see what she thinks. We're going to do the big reveal, and these are some really big bottles, okay? So that's going to be pretty exciting. And then I may ask her a few questions about what it's like to be a whiskey wife as we go along the way. Are you ready to party?
Sure. Let's do it.
You're going to have to talk a little louder.
Okay, fine, let's do it.
There you go. All right, so first off, I have poured a little dram for you. We're using the Weeglins today because, you know, we're trying to keep the consumption amount at a reasonable level. So smell this guy up. What do you smell?
See, my brain's trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, that's why I hid the bottles from you. That's right.
My nose is better when I'm not terrified.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to do fine. I can tell. Do you smell anything in particular?
I want to taste it first.
Okay, go ahead.
Because my nose was telling me it was scotchy.
Your nose is
smoky.
Is telling you correctly. I mean, you're in the right direction for sure.
Did you bring me a scotch? You didn't bring me a scotch.
We'll see. But you think it isn't bourbon?
It's smoky.
Okay.
Like it's got a... Yeah.
How do you feel? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Not my favorite.
Not your favorite? Okay. So
Is there chocolate in it?
Yeah, I guess you could.
A little bit of chocolate.
A little bit of a chocolate component. I don't really have good tasting notes for this one, to be honest.
Great.
Yeah.
Leave it up to me.
Well, I mean, you're you're the one with the awesome palate. Like you.
I mean, I do.
I mean, this woman, I've carried something up to her and smelled it, and she was like, "Oh, that smells like Carmex and cedar." And I'm like, "Get out of here!" And then I smelled it. It's like, "God dang it!" She is absolutely right every time.
Yeah.
So, but this one you're not a huge fan of?
I probably wouldn't pour it for myself.
Wouldn't pour it for yourself? Okay, that's fair.
But I don't hate it.
So let's do the reveal. This is Yamazaki.
I've never had it, so.
So this is a Japanese whiskey. I don't believe that it receives any peat treatment, though. So when you were saying it was smoky, but I often will taste unpeated Scotch and think that I'm tasting something that's peated. But yeah, so overall you don't love it, you don't hate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't pour it for myself.
Wouldn't pour it for yourself?
Yeah, but I mean, we know I'm an Angel's Envy rye girl, so.
Yeah.
Like spicy, sweet cookie whiskey.
Cookie whiskey. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. So how long have we been married?
150 years.
150.
But 23.
23-ish.
Almost.
It'll be 23 this year.
23 this year, yeah.
Yeah. And where'd you meet me at?
You don't remember.
Okay.
But I met you on a soccer field when I was 15.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. You were with a girl, I won't say her name in case she
happens to watch the channel.
Across the channel, yeah.
Okay.
So his mom was best friends with my best friend's family. Mm-hmm. So I met your mom before I ever met you.
Yeah, so I remember seeing you around your friend's aunt's house, but I don't remember meeting you at the soccer fields. You ready for another pour?
Sure, let's go.
You want to try a different one?
Let's go.
All right. All right, I questioned whether or not I should actually do this one next. So, but we're gonna see what your reaction is.
Okay.
This is very different from what I think that you would normally try. So why don't you smell it up?
Oh gosh.
Is that a good smell or a bad smell?
Oh, it's like Lagavulin. You want me to taste more whiskey after this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you can, give a little sipperoo, see what you think. What do you taste?
Lagavulin.
Lagavulin? Well, we should do the reveal then because it is in fact
She wins!
Lagavulin 16. So how did you know that it was Lagavulin?
Because it smells and tastes like Band-Aids. And iodine.
Yeah.
And like Lagavulin.
So do you drink Lagavulin?
No.
No.
I'd like to smell it.
Yeah.
We had a friend that would come over and drink it all the time.
Yeah.
And I could smell him across the room and knew that that's what he poured. So
Yeah.
it's got a really distinct,
Smoky, Band-Aidy
yeah,
kind of flavor.
yeah, not my fave. But
Yeah. So we've been through, 23 years. It's been a long, long journey.
it does.
What is it that you say? It's like,
Okay, can I tell the story?
yeah, go ahead.
So I went to a Jewel concert, and she was telling a story. She grew up in bars. Her dad would yodel or whatever, and she met this old couple, and she's like, I have to go talk to them, and she's asking them about being married and how long have you been married, and she's like, we've been married 60 years, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, what's it like? And she said, well, it's only felt like 5 minutes underwater. I'm like, that's fair.
That is fair.
That's
5
fair.
minutes underwater.
And then there's the other joke where they're like, I've been happily married for 3 years. And they're like, I thought you've been together for 25. And they're like, we have.
We actually could legitimately make that joke.
We probably could.
Yeah, yeah.
We started liking each other about 6 months ago, I think.
No, it's been longer than that. But I'd say we probably didn't like each other for at least the first 18 years.
It was hard.
Yeah, and then like the next 2-3 years was a pretty interesting transition period. During that time I was getting involved in the whiskey world as well.
Super fun.
Super fun, tons of fun. And then I'd say the last year and a half or so. But yeah, it's been really good lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome. You ready to try another pour?
Yeah.
You don't have to finish that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me reset us and we'll see what you think about the next one.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey there, Bourbon Real Talk listeners and watchers. Randy Sullivan here. Wanted to take a quick break to tell you how you can support the channel. We've had a lot of people that have come into the Bourbon Real Talk family lately, and we're grateful for every one of you. But unlike a lot of other channels, we don't have a Patreon, and I don't allow anyone to sponsor the show. So what I do have, though, is some merchandise. So one of the things that I wanted to show you guys is we have Bourbon Real Talk Glencairns available for sale on our website. And great news, we actually have some wee Glens on their way. So we had wee Glens custom manufactured. They're half the size of a regular Glen, excellent for tasting. On the website, we also have candles. And they're more masculine scents, so this one's like leather. And these candles are manufactured by my daughter's candle company. She wanted to buy her own car, so we helped her start her own business. And she manufactured a line of masculine smelling candles for the Bourbon Real Talk family. The next thing that we have is kind of a little interesting gadget. This is a Glen lanyard. So basically, it goes around your neck like any other lanyard, but it's specifically designed to hold a Glen whiskey glass. And it allows you to go hands-free. So honestly, the first time I saw one of these, I thought it was a silly concept. Then someone gave me one. I used it at a bottle share. It was super efficient, truly made it a more enjoyable experience as I interacted with people. We also have these decorative storage boxes for your whiskey samples. So if you get involved in the whiskey community, you're going to be given samples like this one. And one day you're going to look up and you got little sample bottles sitting all over the place. It doesn't look that good. And so we manufactured these custom storage boxes. Those are available as well. And the creme de la creme of merch for Bourbon Real Talk is the American Whiskey Aroma Kit. So the story on this is I was doing reviews. People kept asking me, how do you learn how to break down the different flavors of a whiskey? And I had learned through a wine aroma kit, but I could not find a bourbon aroma kit that I liked. Most of them came in a cardboard box. The scents didn't always make sense for bourbon. Some of them would say they were for bourbon, but they had scents in there that were really more Scotch focused. And so my wife, who helped with the candle company, helped me curate this box. We crowdsourced the 36 scents that went in this through the whiskey community. And I probably went through about 350 different scents to find these 36. Interesting little tidbit, I've given one of these to the master distiller of a major legacy Kentucky distillery, and he reported back that he loves all the scents and that he uses it to train his sensory team, but I am not allowed to tell you what the distillery is, or it would probably ruin my relationship with them. So, if you saw any of this stuff, you want to support the channel, you can head on over to bourbonrealtalk.com/shop and pick something up. But if you just want to hang out here and learn, I'm totally happy with that as well. Just happy to have you as a listener. All right, next up, we have something very special. Not sure if you're going to like this one, but let's give it a snifferoo and see what you think. There's something stuck to the glass. There you go. We do have our puppers walking around, so if they jump into frame,
and we're outside with the pollen.
it's a whole thing. That's true. We are on our back porch. This is our outdoor living furniture, whatever.
Yeah.
That's bright blue. You can see it from far away.
Far away.
Very far, yeah. What are you getting on this one? There's a very distinct note on this. I'm curious whether or not you pull it out.
I don't know. I'm nervous. Like, I want to say like orange.
You were in the right direction for sure. Taste it and see if it comes out. It only tastes like one thing. You getting anything?
You're going to have to tell me.
It's grapefruit.
Shut up. Yes. Okay. Grapefruit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got it on my own.
So the big question is do you like it?
I do.
It's pretty tasty, right?
Yeah. Like, I see that you brought out a box, and I'm racking my brain trying to remember what boxes we own. Ah.
This is Redbreast 27, the Ruby Port Cask. And it actually tastes like ruby red grapefruit. Not like, I mean, it tastes exactly like grapefruit.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is kind of interesting. And the packaging on this is just
it's
gorgeous.
So
all the little details that
they
put
this one's
into
got
the
that
box.
little
Yeah, it's got a magnet.
Magnetic.
Holds it in. It forces you to put the bottle in there in one direction. It's very nice. So this is one that I love. So I've always been curious. I'm going to ask you on camera. What were you thinking when I first started getting involved in the whiskey world?
At first, not much, because you've gotten into a lot of things, right?
Right.
You liked watches, went 10 fathoms deep in watches, got into wine, 10 fathoms deep in wine. So I thought the whiskey was going to be the same way. And then it morphed into a whiskey group and then a whiskey podcast. And things snowballed quite a bit. So it was much different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so things have changed though, right? Because I guess in the beginning I didn't really know, I never planned for this, right?
Sure.
It wasn't the objective to have a podcast. I just liked whiskey. And then I hated Facebook and I didn't know how Facebook worked. And at some point somebody was like, hey, did you see that video so-and-so did? And I was like, you can do videos on Facebook? I didn't know. And I'm like, I can just get on there and do a video and all the people in the group see it? And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, if they follow you and stuff, the algorithm will show it to them. And, you know, the more people watch your videos, the more people that Facebook will show it to. And I'd like to hear myself talk, apparently. I don't know.
Hashtag truth.
Hashtag truth. And so it just kind of grew from there, right? And that hasn't always been an easy thing for you to deal with, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's always, I don't think there's been a time since you started that it hasn't been time consuming.
Right.
First, the research aspect of it, because you do like to learn so much. But then once the Facebook group started and there's, you know, moderation of the group and trying to mold the group and call after call after call of some
Whiskey emergencies,
which there's no such thing as a whiskey emergency. You didn't know that.
I don't know that that's true, but yeah.
It's really, I mean, dude with his shirt off, not an emergency. It's just not. Until someone called me a bad name, that might be an emergency.
Yeah, that was an emergency.
That wasn't my favorite. Yeah, I mean, it's brought, like, I guess that's a good segue into, like, what I didn't expect to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
Some stranger making a meme about you and me and our family, and that, you know, circulating in groups, and I don't know how much of that I should get into, but I thought I could just, I'm just a person. They're just a person. Let me just reach out and say, like, hey, this is a good dude. We're real people. We're a real family. We depend on this guy. Maybe spend your time doing something else. And then he called me a bad name, and then things, you know, got out of control. Got him kicked out of a whiskey club.
Me.
Yeah.
Got me kicked out.
Yeah, got you kicked out.
I mean,
not a shining moment, but
No.
I'm really nice, very likable, endearingly awkward. So just, you know, don't call me mean names, and we'll be okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I was not prepared for, because the group that she's talking about is called Someone Say Whiskey, and we didn't.
Your group.
Yeah.
Not the one you got kicked out.
Not the one I did not get kicked out of my own group. No,
not
but
yet.
not yet.
Not yet. He wouldn't even add me. He just added me to the group in December because he was afraid I was gonna start some things.
Well, I mean, if you're watching this, you know, being involved in the Facebook whiskey community can be very fulfilling, and it creates an opportunity for you to make connections and to be able to taste things like this that this bottle was very expensive, but I all of it that's gone, it was shared with other people, and that's the kind of experience that you have. There's business networking opportunities and all of that stuff, but most people get into it just for fun, and you get more and more involved. You meet people, you start to make new friends, and it can be a very, it can be a blessing. It allowed me to cut some relationships out of my life that I knew were toxic. But I was afraid to let those old relationships go because I didn't have any other friends. But once I got involved in the whiskey community and I was meeting new people, and there were so many awesome people, it was like, well, I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to compromise anymore, right? Because I can just meet new people. If somebody is not helping me grow, if someone's not, if somebody's tearing me down, I just don't need that in my life. And so, that was one of the benefits. But there was also the downside that honestly, you have to deal with it more than anybody else. And that is that as you grow something like that, and then you also start a podcast, you end up with a situation where now your life is part of the public domain. And people feel 100% comfortable having an opinion about it and sharing that opinion, and not always in a productive way. Often, they do so in private. And I've had friends turn against me. I've had people that I thought that I had a close relationship find out that they had done things behind the scenes to damage my reputation or to stop a project that I was working on, or whatever. And that's been a difficult thing to deal with. But I think on the whole, and it did take time, that those things worked themselves out, and we ended up with where we're at now, which is a very positive environment that's very welcoming to new people.
For sure.
And now I really don't deal with a whole lot of those problems. But I mean, it's almost like when you get a puppy, right? When you first get the puppy, it chews on everything, and it wants to misbehave and run off and run into the street and go to the bathroom on the floor and all of that stuff. And if you spend the time to train it, it will develop the character that you build into it. And that's what's happened with Someone Say Whiskey. Now Someone Say Whiskey is a little bit more mature as an organization, and it has its own culture, and that culture is positive and accepting. And now we don't have really all the flare-ups that we used to have. I mean, it used to be, 2 days couldn't go by without there being some big dramatic thing. And people that run the club, half of them want to leave the organization and the other half are at odds and all that stuff. And that really doesn't happen as much anymore.
And I don't think I realized back then, because I wasn't in any other whiskey club, so I didn't know what the cultures were like other than what you told me about. And I don't think I realized the work it took to get Someone Say Whiskey to where it was going. And now it's a place where it's welcoming to women. Women have a place in whiskey. Mm-hmm. They're not, thank you, Melissa Starr. She's worked so hard to make women feel included and have a place in whiskey. And I think that's important. I don't remember where the number came from. Someone told me like 20% of the membership of Someone Say Whiskey is women. Mm-hmm. And we have a voice. We generally have better palates. Mm-hmm. So it's become a place where it's safe to have an opinion, to put your 2 cents in and not get slaughtered by nasty comments.
Arrogant, yeah. I mean, it took a while to teach there's almost 10,000 members. It took a while for the membership to figure out this is not the place for that, right? This is a uplifting, encouraging place. So, all right, well, we're both out of whiskey. You ready to try the next one?
Bring it on.
All right. You ready for round 4?
Sure, here we go.
All right, let's sniff it up.
Okay.
Okay. So good, okay, bad,
Yeah.
okay, yeah?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay.
It's like peachy.
That's fair. Yeah, there's a bit of a tropical fruit kind of component thing going on. This thing's pretty complex, so. What do you think?
I kind of like it.
You should. It's a pretty sought after whiskey. Do you?
Yeah, but I don't know if that means anything to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, being in high demand does not necessarily mean that it tastes good. Mm-hmm. But this one happens to be one that's in high demand and I think tastes good.
Yeah, it's yummy.
Okay.
I'd pour that for myself.
Okay, perfect. Don't do that though. Because this is Old Rip VanWinkle. 10-year Kentucky straight bourbon from the VanWinkle line.
Which is why I've never had it before.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't let me drink the good stuff. So.
I don't let me drink the good stuff. That's actually an interesting segue. How many bottles do you think we have?
Open or just around the house?
Total.
Or, oh gosh, total?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We've joked that we have 300 open bottles, but there's like boxes of things hiding in corners, and there's like, no, someone's gonna come pick that up.
The truth is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. I do know it's more than 400.
It's a lot of bottles.
It's more than 400.
It's more whiskey than I have shoes or purses or makeup.
That's fair.
That's fair.
And so, and we probably have, I don't know that we have 200 open bottles. We might have 150 open bottles. But of those, there's not very many that I drink from.
Sure.
Because when I get a bottle like this, I feel like it belongs to the community. right? And I end up not drinking it unless I'm doing a podcast or I'm drinking with somebody else that's from the community who wants to try it.
Right.
Right? And so I don't think that I have, and this bottle's almost empty. Aside from when I got it and opened it and had the first pour, I do not think I've drank a single drop out of this bottle without being with somebody else from the
Sharing
community. Yeah. And I feel that way about all of the allocated bottles that we own.
Right.
And I feel that way about pretty much all the club picks, unless they weren't highly sought after and there were a ton of them. Anything that was, you know, it was oversubscribed and people wanted to get it that couldn't get it, I kind of won't drink it unless I'm with somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting thing that we've invested all this money.
And then we don't drink it.
And then we don't drink it ourselves.
Thanks for sharing the special stuff.
Well, the people like to see the reactions to the big bottles, so.
Yeah, it's yummy.
So how did it come to be that I have acquired over 400, well, I've probably acquired over 10,000 bottles, but that we own 400 bottles at one time and you have not murdered me?
I mean, I feel like we got close. A few times.
Yeah. So you thought about killing me a few times?
I didn't think about killing you.
Yeah. She's lying. She thought about killing me. I mean, that's
Okay,
fair.
maybe. I mean, you thought about killing me too. It's
Well,
fine.
everyone thinks of it. Yeah, it's
you know,
fine.
it's the
It's
whole
totally
thing.
fine. Don't feel guilty.
We
Don't
got
feel
over it.
guilty.
No,
It's the thing
okay,
that
so
happens.
that's a funny thing. So someone asked me, we were doing a pickup with pours, and someone came over, and they're like, you know, I'm new to whiskey. My wife doesn't like it. You know, what do I need to tell her to get her on board? And I was like, you need a marriage counselor, and I can give you at least 3 good people.
Yeah.
All different price ranges.
Yeah.
All good. And that's true. I haven't added up how many hours of therapy we spent on whiskey. Because it was all encompassing. It took over your life. It still kind of does, right?
Yeah.
If we kind of add up, maybe this is another thing that's, you know, kind of for everyone to know. But I'm like, between the two of us, right? You are a real estate agent. You run a funding company for the real estate
Business, yeah.
business.
We have funding company.
The funding company. So you've got Bourbon Real Talk,
The
obviously.
podcast, yeah.
Podcast. All of the things that come with the podcast.
The merchandise.
The
yeah.
merchandise. What else? We've got Someone Say Whiskey.
Someone say whiskey the group. Unallocated.
If we count unallocated.
Unallocated
as a
the brand.
business,
It's taking up a lot of
it's
time.
taking
Yes.
up a lot of time. The Prideful Goat has taken up a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Our 16-year-old daughter has a candle company that I run for her.
Yeah.
When all of this started, I was working full time as an esthetician and laser tech at a med spa. So I was doing all of that. So we were a little busy.
A little bit busy. And it took a lot of counseling.
A lot of counseling, a lot of therapy.
Hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I finally got to where, especially after I left the med spa, I would say like 100% of my time has been either candles or merchandising. So I think that's about the time that we were able to kind of be a team. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this thing. And now I source all of your products, create them. I mean, sometimes literally, like in a week, we will have our own size and shape of 3-ounce Glens, either 2.5.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's currently two sizes of what they call distillers tasting glasses or wee Glens on the market. This is one size, and the company that was selling them stopped selling them. We found another source that had them, but you can't get these really. And then there's the other side that are actually the Glen Cairn brand.
Right.
That are 2.5 ounces, and they're a little too small, in my opinion, to properly nose. They're also a little too delicate for me. So my lovely wife just found a company to manufacture a new shape. So there's about to be a third on the market.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, they asked me if I had specs. And I was like, can I trace it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know CAD. I can't recreate, like, you know. but they were able to shrink down the shape that they already had. So we're gonna have some awesome glasses. So yeah, I just jumped on board. I take over processing the orders. If you have a problem with your order, you'll probably deal with me.
Yeah. It'll come from my email, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff I love. If I can be in the background, being up front and in front, like, that's your thing.
Yeah.
Like, be in front of people and talk and be the face, and I'll be the background noise, buzzing around, making things happen. And that's how we didn't kill each other.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go.
We're both empty. Time for another pour. All right, you ready for the next round?
Sure.
All right, let's check this out.
Do I know this?
I don't know. I mean, don't drink that much whiskey. That's why you're a noob.
Kind of.
Kind of. Except for Angel's Envy Rye.
True. I mean, I
And
did help
apparently-
make an aroma kit box.
And apparently Lagavulin.
Yeah.
Even though you don't drink it, you knew exactly what that was.
Yeah.
What do you smell? Do you
I
smell
don't
good
know.
smells, bad smells?
No, it's good. It's good.
It smells like
drink
the
it.
color blue to me.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
That one's spicy.
It's a little spicy, yeah. Don't snort the whiskey.
Oh, I started to breathe it wrong.
Yeah, don't breathe the whiskey. I call it snorfing the whiskey. I don't even know where that came from.
It's good. The whiskey I swallowed and didn't inhale.
All right, so we did hop up in proof, by the way.
Yeah, where are we
So
at?
we were 86, then 86, then 107, then 107, and this one's around 120-ish. I was trying to keep us in proof order.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to get worse from here.
Great.
Yeah, yeah, so
I'll try not to breathe the next one.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes are watering.
I would recommend that you don't breathe any
I
whiskeys.
try not to breathe any of them.
Yeah, that'd be...
I can't
So do you
believe I
like
did
it?
that.
Do you dislike
yeah,
it?
No, it's good.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you pour this one for yourself?
Sure.
Okay.
Unless I previously said before that I wouldn't, and then I retract.
This is Ironroot
Ironroot.
Harginger. This is a bourbon whiskey. I think it could be a straight. I think it's more than 2 years old. Yeah, it's 25 months. It could be a straight, but because their COLA approval took place and they were releasing some that were under 2 years old, they didn't have the straight bourbon whiskey on there at the time. But this is a single barrel that we picked. In fact, this was the single barrel pick that started Someone Say Whiskey on its path to growth, because originally it was just meant, because we're at my house, we're in the Artesia neighborhood, right? And originally Someone Say Whiskey was just an Artesia Facebook group. And it was just like, hey, we want to know who the other whiskey lovers are. But through a weird twist of events and a rift in some other whiskey club that shall remain nameless, this pick ended up without a home, and we pushed it through our little neighborhood Facebook group. And next thing you know, the group grew faster. When we got to 1,000, we couldn't believe it. Next thing you know, we're at 5,000, and we'll hit 10,000 in the next couple weeks. So that's insane. But we love the Ironroot folks.
I would fight a stranger for Marcia.
I'd fight a stranger for Marcia as well, although she wouldn't need it because she's such a
doesn't
bad
need
A.
it,
Yeah, she's
pretty awesome.
Marcia Licorice is the mother of Texas whiskey. And the Licorice family's been very kind to the podcast. Most of the connections that I have are because of Ironroot introduced me to them. So back to us.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about the transition. So I recently went to Kentucky, and I didn't want to go to Kentucky because you weren't going.
So sad.
That is not normal. Like, up until recently, I'm just like, yeah, guys trip, whatever.
Yeah,
right?
we'll just go.
We'll just go. And then I'd be there, and I wouldn't really, you'd call me, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's right.
I'm married.
I'm married, and I should be checking
with my
in
family,
and
yeah.
all of that stuff, right? And I would be out of sight, out of mind. I'd be happy, but I wasn't happy, and that's because you've kind of become my my partner in this whiskey thing, right? Yeah. And that's a new thing for our relationship. And so I've never said this to you before, but I think that there was a turning point at Christmas.
Okay.
And it was when my dad was asking, my dad asked these questions, right? And he's like, he'll be like, is this whiskey thing even worth your time? You know, are you even making any money at this? That kind of thing.
That's something we can talk about.
And I was like,
no.
Not directly, but you know, I have a real estate business and I've met a lot of customers this way. And I hadn't actually looked up the merch sales. And so I looked up the real estate transactions that we had done from people that I had met through the whiskey community that I knew for sure I would not have done business with them. And I looked up the merch sales, and it was not an insignificant amount of money. And I kind of felt like you were a little fly on the wall listening to me talk to my dad, and then like the light bulb went off. Is there any truth to that at all, or did I just make all that up?
No, I don't recall any of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it was right after that, like, you started getting more involved in the merch. And
No, I just knew that you needed help. And if I could, I used to do your transaction paperwork. I could probably do that, you know, to take stuff off of your real estate plate. But, you know, in terms of all of the things that you do and all of the things that I could help with, right? Like, I can't record a whiskey podcast. I can probably admin a group, even though I don't know that much about whiskey. But I knew that I was good at creating merch. I knew, like, if I created a whole brand of candles and labels and a website. If I can teach myself to make a website for a kid, like, I can ship boxes. But it was, I feel like I do best when I can dive in and do background busy work. Like with the Prideful Goat launch, I didn't want to just stand and watch everybody work. I just rolled up my sleeves and dove in and packaged bags and, you know, met people. So if I can do busy work and feel like I'm like on the ground doing something, then I feel, it helps me feel like I've got some purpose. So
we kind of alluded to the fact that we had to go, and we probably needed the counseling anyway, but we had to go to counseling to, you know, help to deal with the stresses that came along with being in my involvement in the whiskey community. What does it mean to you to now be in this more connected state surrounding this, you know, hobby that's grown into something more than that?
You know, I feel like, you know what, and to go back to your previous question, you asked what the switch was. In December, you added me to Someone Say Whiskey.
Oh, I did that for your birthday, right?
Was it my birthday?
I think so.
So I felt like I was actually a part of the team at that point. And now that I'm able to be involved and meet people and go to the events and be a part of the family, it feels different, right? Like, I've made some personal friends. I know that there are ladies in the group now that if someone called me a bad name, they would fight them. And that's a completely different thing than feeling like I was an outsider and I wasn't welcome to be a part of it.
So I wonder if I was, and for the record, the reason why I didn't add her was because there's
I'm a little feisty.
Well, she can be a little spicy.
I'm super nice.
She's super nice, but
if you cross me, I might.
Right, and the environment, you know, like I was saying, you know, we had to raise Someone Say Whiskey up to be a welcoming and inviting place. But in the beginning, you know, if somebody posted a bottle of Blanton's and we're excited about Blanton's, I mean, some person would come out and say, like, why are you chasing after that swill? That's garbage. You should pour that down the drain. And those types of people will look for opportunities to just stir up drama.
Tear
And
people down.
I was so afraid that she would come in and say something and then they would attack her and it would cause a lot of problems. So I didn't feel comfortable adding you until I had seen that the group was mature enough to be able to, you know, handle your potential opinions that would be shared. And also, I mean, you changed a lot too, right?
Sure.
I mean, you used to say all kinds of stuff on social media that we regret, right? That we've had to go back and make amends with friends for and things like that. And you've grown a lot in that area as well too. So I just felt like it was time,
Yeah.
right?
I've been good.
And now I'm like so happy to have you be a part of it that I wish it could happen sooner, but
Yeah.
it just didn't work out that way. All right, I'm out of whiskey.
Let's go.
You ready for another round? All right, up next. This one is near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
What are you smelling?
I don't know. My sniffer is so off.
It's off? We are outside.
I'm just nervous. I
There's-
can smell better when I'm like, what do you smell?
Yeah?
Like, I don't know what I smell.
You'd be fine if there wasn't two cameras pointing at you.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be
So much better.
so much, but so good.
Just assume she's the best in the world.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really good.
She's really good, yeah. Yes, no, maybe so?
It's hot.
It is a little hot, yeah. Don't snort this whiskey.
No. But I swallowed it and didn't breathe it this time, so that was good.
That's good, yeah. What are you getting?
I'm trying not to do like the stereotypical like
Uh,
I smell caramel and vanilla. Like it's so good.
yeah?
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
That's actually a funny segue.
Segue into what?
I don't know. Like you hear people talking in
Oh
the
my
whiskey
gosh,
community.
yeah.
What are some things that you've heard people say that other people get upset about, or stuff that
I mean,
you
I feel
think
like
is
there's
funny?
a post about this, but like, I don't want to offend anyone. There's stuff that like the people that are trying to sound important will say, and I feel like we can make fun of those people, right? And those are the only people that I will talk about, like the ones that think that they're overly important in whiskey.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this whiskey's so smooth. Well,
Smooth is certainly a trigger word for people,
it's a trigger word.
right? Because it means everything and nothing at the same
I
time.
mean, obviously, it's going to taste like caramel and vanilla unless you're drinking a scotch, and then it's going to taste like dirt. So there's that.
For my Scotch-loving friends, she
No,
she does like Scotch.
I do like scotch.
But she likes unpeated Scotches.
I'm a
Yeah.
Speyside girl.
Speyside and Highlands if they're unpeated.
Yeah,
She likes,
yeah. I can drink scotch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to look up this, but there was a conversation about it on the Facebook group about trigger words for people. Someone said they don't like it when people call whiskey juice.
And that's actually, I know who said that. And because now that I have the Prideful Goat in unallocated, I am involved in discussions with barrel brokers about purchasing whiskey. And the term that they use is juice. They say this is, this is 6-year Kentucky juice, or this is 10-year, Indiana juice, or whatever. That's the term that the industry people use. But it's also the term that they use in wine. And I think that's what trips people out, is that, they feel like juice would be associated with fruit.
Sure.
Right? And
I think smooth is the big one, and they're like, oh my God, it's so smooth. And I'm like, yeah.
Mine is when they say that it tastes like stone fruit.
Yes.
That's the one that I'm just like, okay. I'm like, all right, buddy, which one?
It's
right?
kind of a douche move, right?
Well,
Like,
right, because it's real talk. I thought that stone fruit was a type of fruit, so I went and Googled it. And it turns out stone fruit's any fruit that's got a pit, which includes, peaches and
multiple
plums.
scents in our aroma kit, right? Like actual stone fruit that you can tell the difference between the.
Right. But you know what else is stone fruit? Coffee.
Right.
And so it's like, are you saying it tastes like coffee? Are you saying it tastes like peaches? Are you saying it tastes like plum? Those are very different flavors, right? So anytime somebody gives a pretentious
self-important
kind of note that sounds smart, but it doesn't actually mean anything. But I'm all about like approachability, and I get it. I mean, if a lot of newer people will say, "Oh, I like this whiskey, it's smooth," and I know what they mean. I mean, this is easy for me to drink.
Right. It usually means like not hot.
Yeah, typically, or sometimes you give somebody a whiskey that's really high proof, but it's super balanced, and they'll say this is smooth. But if it's off balance or high proof, it's less likely that they're going to think that it's a smooth whiskey, right? But it means different things to different people. But that's okay.
Right. I'm not offended by it. Sometimes when you don't know what to say, smooth just means you like it, right? You like it or you don't. There's not a word you can put on that. We were at Ryan's house, our lovely producer, and he poured whiskey, and I kind of choked on it, and then I couldn't stop drinking it because it was so good,
right?
But it was really hot.
Yeah.
Like 120, 130?
I don't remember.
But it,
We do have to get back to this one.
Sorry.
So what do you think about this one?
I like it.
Do you?
Yeah. I can't put my finger on what I'm feeling like citrusy something, but I don't know if that's the right.
This whiskey's so
avenue.
complex, it's like you could say anything, right? But the main tasting notes that I get are there's a hint of a medicinal cherry, especially on the finish. You can taste a little bit of like a cherry cough drop. But there's like a sweet pipe tobacco. There's fig. There's actually some dark chocolate. There's a little bit of smoke. And the reason why is because it is
George T Stagg.
When
you said it was one of your favorites, and I looked over and saw the bottle height, I thought it might be.
This is George T Stagg. I think this is last year's. This is 2020. God, we hit that bottle hard. It's okay.
A little bit.
When I say we didn't drink it.
No, we didn't.
The club hit the bottle hard.
This is the first time I've had it, and it's been in my house for a year.
That's fair, yeah.
However long you've had it, whatever.
So George T Stagg.
It's yummy.
Yummy. It's a 15-year straight Kentucky bourbon from what I remember from when I did the research for the review.
Lists?
Well, no, I did a review of this particular bottle. You took the photo, actually.
Fun.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is I looked the other day, my podcast viewership is less than 1% female. I don't like that.
Shameful.
Yeah. But I don't say or do anything that would make women feel like they weren't welcome there.
Sure.
I don't
You're
think.
cute.
Well, I mean, I would hope that would help, but apparently it doesn't. And we have about 20% female membership in Someone Say Whiskey. And the last statistic that I heard was that about 20% of whiskey is drank by women.
Sure.
And I actually heard that number is now low. And so if that's the case, why do you think that women don't feel comfortable being engaged with a podcast like this one as much as men do? Do you have any guesses as a woman?
Question. I mean, I don't know. My guess is that so many of the whiskey groups out there are unlike Someone Say Whiskey. You're not welcome if you post a bottle. Like, I've seen posts from other groups where a woman posts a picture of themselves with a bottle, and they're overly objectified, overly sexualized comments and all of those things. And I mean, it's nice to just like whiskey, right? It's not, and it's becoming more and more common where you can go in and order a whiskey, and you order a whiskey and they set it in front of the husband and not the wife, regardless of who ordered it.
Right.
So I think there's a mindset change that's coming. But in terms of viewership of the podcast, I don't know.
I don't know. I worry that the bourbon industry did a very bad job in their advertising in the past, and they very specifically targeted, older white males.
Well, think about Mad Men.
Right.
Right? Like, he's got a cigar, he's pouring, whiskey or scotch in his office, and it's like the manly thing to do.
Right.
And it's not seen as, something that's very feminine.
So if it is a cultural you know, if it's a learned cultural issue, what would you say as a woman to any women viewers out there to encourage them that it's okay for them to get involved?
God, that's a good question. I mean, you got to just give it a shot, right? I mean, when you first started doing whiskey, you would hand me something. I'm like, no, that smells like nail polish remover. No, but it tastes like nail polish remover. And it took a long time to, you know. But I mean, the wine tasted disgusting when I first started. You know, our first trip to Napa, we did 25 wineries in 5 days, and I was not a wine drinker. And I remember the winery that I took a sip of wine and didn't do the full body, like, right? Like, it just, I didn't like wine. But we went to Chateau Montelena, and I took a sip of probably some really expensive wine that we weren't going to buy.
At the time, it was a $125 bottle. I'm sure it's $300 now,
we were not going to buy that. But, you know, but I liked it. But it was something that you were passionate about, and our friends that we were with were passionate about. So I gave it a shot. I was, you know, starting in dessert wine, which I feel like Angel's Envy Rye is the dessert wine of whiskey.
That's fair.
Right? So that's where I started. And there's, you know, plenty of things that you can do to make it more drinkable and more palatable if it's too hot and too spicy for you to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, you can put it over ice. You can add a little bit of water. You can, you know,
right.
If it's appropriate, you could mix it with something and, you know, build your tolerances up. You know, we're all about people drinking what they want, how they want, you know, so that makes sense. But if you are a woman out there, we would love to have you as a regular viewer of the podcast. You are welcome here. And Someone Say Whiskey is a very welcoming place, and there is a women-led group inside the group that their objective is to help women feel more comfortable getting more involved in the whiskey space. So there is absolutely space for you in Someone Say Whiskey, and there is space for you on the Bourbon Real Talk channel as well. So,
sure.
All right. Well, we're about out of this. You want to do one more?
Sure.
All right. All right. We have our last whiskey here.
I keep trying to sneak a look at the bottle.
Stop looking at the bottle.
I'm like, I don't know. It's
Y'all
just a
can't
whiskey
see, but
bottle.
off camera, there's a bottle, and it's covered up by an ugly towel, because I didn't want her to cheat.
I'm a cheater.
Okay, so what are you smelling?
It's perfumey.
Okay, you're getting perfume?
Like it. See, sometimes my tasting notes are not helpful. I'm like, this smells like my grandma. And every grandma smells different.
Okay, I can see why you'd say that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know that I've picked up that note before.
Like my brain is saying like gardenia or something. Like it's just a random. But that it's.
Are we gonna sing the song?
No,
or no? Okay.
Not.
There's a song we sing whenever someone says gardenia.
Gardenia. It's Mandy Moore.
It's Mandy Moore.
Look it
Whatever.
up. She's amazing.
It's great. Yeah.
It's great.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you like? Do you not like?
There's something old about it.
It's not super old, but it does have an old taste.
I don't know that I'd pour that for myself.
Okay. I'm so glad to hear you say that.
There's like a. I just get like my brain is saying old.
It is 2019 Thomas Handy Sazerac.
Don't you love Thomas Handy? You like the
straight rye whiskey, and I do not like this year.
I'm off the hook.
And so I like to pour this one for people. I love Thomas Handy. It is my favorite rye. I have picked it blind against the most famous recently released rye, which was the Booker's rye. I've also picked the Booker's rye blind against it as well. So I've gone back and forth on those. But that's how much I love Thomas Handy. And this year just was a miss for me.
I don't love that.
Yeah, and what I taste is not gardenia. What I taste is pine sol. It tastes like a cleaning agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's something chemically about it.
There's something like it's connecting to something in my childhood that I can't put my finger on, but it's.
So when I think about all of the highly sought after world class whiskeys that I've gotten to try that I was disappointed in, I knew before I tasted Pappy 20 and 23 that I was not going to love them. because I'd already had some high-age bourbons, and there just wasn't enough of that sweet bourbon flavor left, you know, and it was too oaky, too bitter, too tannic. And so when I had Pappy 20 and I didn't like it, it wasn't a shock to me. But when I opened this bottle and I tasted it and I didn't like it, I couldn't believe it. Just couldn't believe it. But for whatever reason, it was just not my usual. And I love Thomas.
I mean, it's got a weird thing. Like, I can't stop smelling it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to drink a whole glass of it, but I can't stop smelling it because it's familiar.
Usually when I pour this for people, I pour them and not me, and they think I'm trying to conserve the rare bottle, but it's actually that I don't want to taste it. So that's kind of interesting. But I did get a chance to try the 2020, and it's great. So it was just that 1 year I didn't like. I've had 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 I didn't like, 20. I love them all. But it's interesting.
If we could go back in time and get the birthday bourbon that we tried in Nashville, I might sell an organ for that.
Yes.
I don't remember what year it was.
It was 2014, Old Forester birthday bourbon.
So good.
It was so good.
I didn't even like bourbon. You didn't even barely like bourbon.
I
back
was
then.
just getting started. Yeah. All right, so I have a bonus pour for you.
Bonus pour.
This is extra credit. What are you smelling?
Smells like a cookie.
Yes. All right, so you know what it is?
It just smells so good. Okay, it's so good.
What is it?
That is Angels on Me Ride, my friend.
All right, so I did a bonus crack.
I mean, it's just so good.
But show them your bottle.
Show them my bottle.
Yes.
So, when he went to Kentucky, Lindsay Sullivan, for my whiskey partner in crime, my favorite bottle of whiskey, engraved.
Engraved.
That's how you do it, my friends. Gifts are my love language, so that's extra. Well, extra for me.
And this, I feel like this bottle was significant because, you know, you were working to help me create the aroma kit and things like that. Sure. But to be honest, I didn't feel like you were my partner in whiskey. You know what I mean?
Right.
I felt like, this was my thing, and you at times encouraged me to quit.
Sure. It was hard.
You told me to quit. You told me to quit the group. You told me to stop doing the podcast and to focus on real estate. And I kept telling you, just trust me. Just trust me. It's going to work out. Just trust me. And it was difficult, but we have gone through that transition of becoming partners.
Yeah.
In this whiskey thing.
Ride or die.
Right? Ride or die. So, we're not going anywhere. Bourbon Real Talk's not going anywhere. No. This is episode 100. I mean, we'll play this clip back on episode 1000, right? Like we're going to keep on going. This is my passion, and we're doing it together. And so I'm happy to have you as my whiskey partner. Cheers.
Same, bro. I broed you on your podcast.
We do bro each other.
We do bro each other.
It's a whole thing. Ready, bro?
Ready, bro.
Let's bro this thing up, bro.
Let's bro this thing up, bro.
When you bro your bro, then you bro it some more.
I don't know.
That's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love this whiskey so much. This, come to my house. I will pour you Angels Envy Rye, and we will, just baby steps into the hard stuff.
That's fair. All right, well, I feel like we can end it on that positive note. Episode 100 in the bag. Cheers some more. So if this is the first time that you have ever watched this channel, I want to, kind of share with you the show philosophy. This show is about inclusion. And unfortunately, I did lose a loved one to suicide in 2014. And, it just came as a shock to me. I didn't know that that's where he was at. And when it was all said and done, and you reflect and you think about what you could have done differently and how you might have been able to, I don't know, change things so you didn't lose your loved one, I struggled to find a way to maybe make a difference in someone else's life so that they didn't feel that alone, so that they didn't feel that disconnected. And then I found whiskey. And I noticed that whiskey brings people together. People of all different races, religions, creeds, whatever. It didn't matter. If we were sitting down to have a drink, there was connectedness. And then the whiskey community, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, helped me to get rid of some toxic relationships in my life. And I realized that even though it's just whiskey, it's kind of a little more than that. It has the ability to connect people to a place, and that's important, and we need that. I also have noticed a lot of hate online, especially around the election. People that could have otherwise been great friends and sat down and had a drink saying terrible things to one another, strangers on the internet. And I figured that if those people that don't even know each other can hate each other, even though they've never met, it's just as easy for me to love you. And that's why I end every podcast with the same sign off, and that's this. If you woke up this morning and you were unsure whether or not anyone loves you, just know that I love you, and I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk.